Welcome back to the Green Bay Phoenix Coaches Show, presented by Prevea, the official healthcare provider of the Green Bay Phoenix, talking with head coach Will Ryan about the Phoenix men's program. So, Will, I got to ask, we get into the locker room after the game. Who was the first text message you got from that said congratulations?
I believe it was my wife. I'd have to go back and check all the timestamps, but I'm pretty sure it was my wife. I've got a group chat with my family, my mom, and my dad's not on that because he doesn't like to get bombarded by texts. But lot of texts, tweets, and calls. So very appreciative of those.
What was the mood like in the locker room after the game? I know when you joined me on the post-game show after the game, you were still dripping from the water bath, but were all the guys just was it a sense of relief, joy, a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I had to, after every game, I go and talk with the assistants for a little bit before we go address the team. So I did the same. I didn't just barge into the locker room and start hooting and hollering. I regained my composure a little bit and took a deep breath, talked a little bit to the assistants, and then didn't know what I was going to walk into when I went in the locker room, and all of a sudden I let out a big yell and the water was upon me. At least it wasn't Gatorade, it was just water. So no carpeting or clothing was stained. But it was fun. No, the guys, some chest bumps in there. I may have thrown a couple elbows and forearm shivers into some chests, maybe. I don't know.
Perfect.
A little bit of a mosh pit.
Some of the televised celebrations that Coach Guard, your dad, Saul have had, not uncommon to get in there and start dancing with the guys or, things like that. Can you bust out a dance move with the team, or is it more about the chest bumps?
There wasn't any music being played, and it's a very tiny locker room. So I wouldn't have had enough room to, do my moonwalk or, bust a move. Maybe in an open space I could have.
Once they let fans in the stands and you guys win one at home, I want to see a post-game moonwalk for the crowd. Let's talk about the process getting to Saturday. As we mentioned, a lot of close games that you were in, and we've talked in the pregame shows quite a bit about the 30 minutes of basketball instead of the 40. And the guys were getting close and something just needed to click. Talk about that process, Will, as you guide your team through that from opening up against a couple of Power Fives to then getting into the conference season.
Almost every game I talk about, you have to believe that you can win. Before anything else, you have to believe that you can compete, not only with the big boys, the Power Five schools, against an Eastern Illinois who has a ton of seniors and some talented players, where you come up just short in overtime. And then you start out with your in-state foe in Milwaukee. They've got some pretty good seniors as well, and a lot of new faces, but they've had their culture in for a few years now under Coach Baldwin. So they've got a chance this year to do some things. But you come up short and you don't play a complete game. You're not from start to finish. Whether you come up on the wrong end or not, you just want your guys to be able to play a full 40 and leave it all out there. And I think we had some spells in a few of those games where we were right there, and then we let one mistake turn into two, turn into three, and then it kind of snowballs. And so, we work on it in practice. We keep building, trying to keep building good habits. And a lot of our guys are getting there now. And so you little by little by little, those baby steps are turning into, some longer steps. And we're starting to figure some things out. And finally we were able to see it through on Saturday and get the first one.
After the game on Saturday night, PJ Pipes, the senior leader of the team, who had a phenomenal weekend in Youngstown, career high 30 on Saturday, he said one of the catalysts to Saturday's game was the fact that he personally took to heart you saying you are not leaving Youngstown without a win. And, to see PJ as a senior step up and do what he did on Saturday really was kind of a defining leadership moment to me in his career here.
Mm-hmm. I've been challenging, some of these older guys to step up and lead. I know PJ's got those qualities. I think it's difficult for some guys to, you've got a new system, new coaching staff, and they're trying to figure out their roles. But guys are starting to figure out those roles, and they're embracing them, and they're starting to flourish. And I think that's where, PJ is really starting to help us out, is in that leadership role. So, after we took a bump on Friday, talking to those guys about believing again, and I said, every game you go into, you should expect to. I said, that's the mentality you have to have. And, they took it to heart, and they came out victorious.
Let's talk about the other end of that coin. We all know how young this team is. There are some walk-ons, non-scholarship players that are getting some pretty significant minutes with this team right now and contributing. One of which is going to be joining me here in just a few minutes, Lucas Stieber. And he's really provided a spark for this team this year.
No question. He's been a catalyst for us. He's one of the most unselfish kids I've been around. He'd rather make his teammate better and get an assist than take a shot. I have told him that he needs to look to shoot a little bit more, and he's starting to. I want him to be a threat, so they actually have to guard him. But 34 assists to 14 turnovers, that's pretty good assist turnover ratio.
Absolutely.
And you can't talk about him enough when it comes to that. And he's a kid who, he's a redshirt freshman, walk on, but he's got some really good leadership qualities as well. And so he's like a coach on the floor. He gets guys into spots, and we have kind of nicknamed him Remix a little bit because he does like to change some plays up, and based on our lineups. And there's days where I'm like, Lucas, let's just run it the way I have it drawn up first, because I don't know if some of these other guys know the play the way it's originally supposed to be. So he'll be, oh, I'm sorry, coach. And I'm like, no, I like your thinking, but let's run it this way first, and then we can remix it. So he's got a beautiful mind when it comes to that. And you
don't give him full audible power.
We're close. Him and PJ, they do a pretty good job of figuring out what to run out there. So us as a staff, we don't have to scream, hey, run this play or that play.
All right. And a couple other ones. I mean, Colin Schaefer saw some really big minutes last weekend. Ryan Claflin's worked his way into the starting lineup. It just, is it like the grit of, hey, I didn't get offered a scholarship coming out of high school, I'm going to prove it even more that, these guys are the ones that you see right now diving on the floor and hustling after a ball, things like that?
That might be the case, but all I know is that they're coachable. And that's all you can ask out of your guys is, are you coachable? They listen every day. They play with a little bit of fire. They're not the most talkative kids. Lucas is a lot more talkative than Ryan and Colin, but they've been letting their play do the talking for them, and they've come up big in some spots. I told Ryan the other day when he checked in, I can't remember how much time, it was under the 4-minute mark, somewhere in that area. I said, hey, be a threat when you're out there. He literally get our first offensive possession, he catches on the wing and splashes a 3. So he's definitely coachable. He listens. Same thing with Colin. Colin came in, defended. He hit a 3 in the first half, came up with some timely rebounds, hustle plays. Those are the things you love as a coach. And, I think it rubs off on the others.
Coach, we're out of time with you today. We appreciate it very much. Best of luck this weekend when Oakland comes to the Crest Event Center.
Appreciate it.
That's the head coach of the Phoenix, Will Ryan. We'll be joined by Lucas Stieber when we return to the Phoenix Coaches Show presented by Prevea Health after this timeout from Learfield IMG College. Welcome back to the Green Bay Phoenix Coaches Show, brought to you by Prevea Health, the official healthcare provider of the Green Bay Phoenix. Joined now by redshirt freshman guard Lucas Stieber, who has really kind of made his mark in the early going of the program. First of all, Lucas, congratulations on the win Saturday.
Thank you.
So first question, you were here last year. They make the coaching change in the late spring, early summer, and you decided that you were going to stick around. Talk about the decision that went into staying here to play for Coach Ryan.
Yeah, so Coach Darner, the rest of the staff, they kind of sent us texts, gave us calls. You kind of heard the news, and I was, kind of taken by it by surprise, So I felt like I had made a pretty good connection. The coaches kind of saw what I could bring to the table, and then a whole new staff is brought in. We kind of met him before the official hire was made. You could obviously tell Coach Ryan had a very high basketball IQ. The game meant a lot to him. I mean, it's in his DNA, kind of similar to how it is for me. And you got that feel like from the jump. And honestly, that was the thing that like made me the most excited, is that, he, just like Coach Darner did, but he would really appreciate the style of game that I play, not throw it to a guy on the wing and say, hey, go get, call him a do him offense. But no, with us, it's kind of like, move the ball, get everybody involved, the play by the pass. That's what, Coach Ryan always says. But no, I knew some of the other hires he was bringing in were Wisconsin guys, and that was big time for me, is the Wisconsin connection and, him acknowledging what I can do as a player. So that was honestly one of the bigger reasons I decided to stay.
Now, for those people outside of the Green Bay area that are listening to this right now, Lucas had a really great career in Green Bay, was the defensive player of the year. So kind of always hung your head on the defensive side, which maybe comes from family lineage. For those that aren't familiar, there's a Bennett connection there, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So, no surprise that you'll get your nose in there and play, some hard-nosed defense. But on the offensive end, you've been a really good facilitator so far. Your assist to turnover ratio is really good. But to the point where Coach Ryan was just talking in the last segment that he might need to start checking your audible ability. He was, Lucas might get a little too Aaron Rodgers sometimes when it comes to switching the plays up. Is that true?
I mean, I don't want to say that's true, but, for the most part, I like to dissect the game and just see what's going on. If I see a quick read, I'm, giving a guy a wink or just, hey, Mari, PJ, just letting guys know something I see. And I think sometimes, I like to think for the most part it benefits us, but sometimes it does get me in a little bit of trouble. So I try and stay away from that. They say stop remixing. That's what they all say to me. So I don't know. But the coaches, I think, have a lot of trust in my decision-making, and, I really appreciate that.
Coach made mention before Youngstown that he kind of made a little bit of a change and took PJ off the ball, which put it in your hands a little more often, bringing it up the floor. Talk about how just that one subtle little change, because I know you're happy for a guy like PJ that puts up 30 in a game, and you had quite a few assists on those.
No,
important to you.
Yeah, PJ is a phenomenal shooter. I mean, I've known that since I came in as a freshman. One of the first guys I met, was very open to me, welcomed me with open arms for sure. And we'd go in and work out, and I'm thinking, like, am I that bad of a shooter? Because I'm shooting with PJ, and he's just killing me in shooting drills and stuff like that. I mean, he moves well without the ball, and he's really willing to shoot. So, for me as a bigger guard, at least in this league, 6'3", 6'4", it's nice coming off ball screens, being able to pick guys apart and find shooters, slashers like Amari and just other guys that we have looked. So it's really nice to kind of get the ball more, but I am really looking to pass. So to be spaced with shooters like Ryan and PJ and Josh Jefferson, it's really nice. And I hope PJ enjoys that. I hope, at least.
We're talking with Lucas Stieber. Finally got the monkey off the back on Saturday night against Youngstown. What was the mood in the locker room after that win on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge, kind of, and even besides after the game, before the game, our assistant coach, he got into us a little bit before the game. He goes, family, this is a family atmosphere. He goes, you guys need to, lay it all out of the line. You guys have to be sick of losing. Get over that little hump, because I don't know, for the past 3 or 4 weeks, it seemed like we were always in it to the last, 4 or 5 minutes. And then whether they had some senior guard step up, a big man that kind of would kill us, but we finally just stayed together. It stayed the course. We found the extra guy, made the extra pass, the extra defensive rotation, and we were able to come through. And the excitement, I mean, everybody smiles. I always smile because I'm not really a serious guy, but everybody was smiling. We threw water all over PJ because he played, awesome. And then Coach Ryan came in and we doused him with water. So it was extremely happy. I was really happy for everyone.
All right, last question, and I can't let you get away with this because we alluded to it earlier.
All right.
Is Coach Bennett able to watch your games, and how often does he critique your defense?
My grandpa watches. I think he watches every single game he can. Otherwise, he does listen to it on the radio. And I'm sure that's all he pays attention to. He could care less about my points, my, assists to turnover ratio stuff that you mentioned. But no, he really wants me to my off-ball defense needs to improve. And that's a big thing that I've talked about with, assistants. We break down film all the time. I'm definitely not the quickest or the fastest or the strongest guy, but I like to consider myself a pretty, high IQ player. So if I can put myself in the right spot, and, can help out my other teammates, that's really big for us. So yeah, my grandpa's always on my case, sending me texts, calling me, and we talk about it all the time. But yeah, it is a blessing for me. It is to have somebody like that always kind of in my ear, hand on my shoulder. But it is really nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Lucas, we appreciate the time. Got the first one, stacked with successes. Hopefully we get a couple more this weekend.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.